morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Nitpicks Facebook Live. It's been a little while. We took a break, but this week we are back and we have a guest. Emily Kintigh is here with me today, and we're going to be doing a trunk show with our new Pathways book, and we're going to be giving away 4 copies to people who comment as we're chatting and ask questions. We'll be sending you the information in your DMs afterwards. So if you're a winner, we will contact you. So stay tuned for that as well. So comment throughout and we will answer your questions. Hi, Emily. Good morning.
Hi, Hannah. Good morning.
Thank you. You are a longtime designer with us. And I think you've been in a lot of our collections. And this time you have a lovely beanie in the Pathways collection.
Thank you. Yes, I'm excited.
Cool. How did you learn how to knit, and then how did you get into designing?
Yeah, so I have some vague memories of knitting in elementary school, like just a really short, I think it was a school project. And I made an attempt at a scarf and a couple blankets for my dolls. But other than that, it was, nothing really happened. So it was about 13 years ago that I really picked it up, and I got myself some books and taught myself using the illustrations in the front. I got a few Debbie Bliss books. And she's got a lot of great patterns for kids. And I had a young niece and nephew at the time and made lots of gifts and kind of went from there. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And then, so it's 15 years ago, and you started with Kiddo Knits or Smaller Knits and Debbie Bliss, which are super solid pattern collections. I started with those patterns as well, and they helped me get started and really learn a lot of the techniques. And then with designing, because you've been designing with us for so long, what was the first pattern where you're like, oh, I can totally design that and I'm going to do it myself?
I think I started tweaking patterns at first, like with a lot of the Debbie Bliss toys are knit flat, and I wanted to work them in the round. So I kind of, just tweaking stuff that way. I don't remember what I made some stuff and didn't write down the patterns. Kind of made it, and then it kind of evolved into writing them down. And I think my first pattern that I finished and published was a football. So pretty simple little football toy. I can do that. It's just increase and decrease and you're done. So that was my first pattern that I finished and published. Yeah.
I think toys are a really great place to start. I also went down that direction as well. I started with some fingerless mitts, but then I got really into knitting toys and realizing again, knitting them flat is not my favorite. I'd rather knit them in the round. So I did the same thing. And then being able to tweak those patterns, because you don't have to wear them. You don't have to get the gauge quite right. You can kind of fiddle with it a lot more. They're more forgiving than other things. So that's a really excellent place to start.
I'm pretty sure I didn't do very many gauge swatches early on.
No, I don't know that I still do. Well, excellent. So with this collection, the Pathways collection, it's a collection of textured knits. We really wanted to look at simple shapes that really showed off the yarn that we have that we love, and also just the different way that light plays on textured stitches. And so when we do a call for submission, we usually do an inspiration board of several photographs pulled from maybe Pinterest or our archives to be like, this is the direction we'd like to go. And we kind of give a short description of the kinds of garments and what we're trying to achieve with the collection as well. So I think we probably said something along the lines of relaxed silhouettes with lightly textured stitches, nothing overly complicated. So no cables and no color work, keeping it simple, kind of broader repeats. And when we release a call for submission like that, what is it like as a designer to think of a pattern that would fit within that collection?
Yeah, so usually I open those right away because I'm super curious and I'll read it over a couple times and look at the mood board is super helpful. And usually I leave it open on my computer for probably a few days to a week and kind of keep popping back to it and thinking, kind of letting it mull over in my head. And try to get an idea of what it is that you guys are going for, like where you're headed with it. And then I have a lot of stitch dictionary books that I use. So once I've kind of got an idea, I'll flip through those with in mind kind of where I'm headed and where I think you're headed. And so with this one, I found this really great textured pattern that's kind of a fisherman's rib, broken fisherman's rib. Yep, there it is. And it was just kind of stuck out to me. Really, a lot of texture, nice cushy fabric once I knitted it up. Yeah, so that's kind of my process usually. Sometimes I come up with things.
What are your favorite books? I'm so curious because I also have a very large collection of stitch dictionaries.
I have the Harmony guides are some good old ones. I've got a couple of the up, down, all around, knitting all around, 750 stitches. You can't see from several.
I have both of those last two as well.
Yeah, and then some that are just cable, a few like specific cable books. And then some that are focused on color work. So depending on what I'm doing or thinking about, I'll look in the different sections of the different books because they're usually separated by types of stitch pattern too. They'll have like a lace section and a cable section. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I like the up down all. I think it's up down all around one specifically because it gives you the flat and the round directions, which is not something I see very often, and something I really struggled to understand when I was learning how to knit was that you wouldn't get the same effect if you were knitting in the round versus flat.
Right.
That was
some
revelation.
Some of them don't have that, and so then I have to go like make my own chart or rewrite it to make it fit what I'm trying to do. So sometimes it's.
We have a comment from Holly. She said that quarantine has pushed her to learn how to knit, and she thought it would be too hard before, but I think that's the case for a lot of people, that we're seeing people learn how to knit for the first time now, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's great.
I think this is a great time to try and if you're learning how to knit or just picking it back up again, this is a wonderful time to either learn something new or explore something. And then also somebody was saying that they love your posters in the background, Emily.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they're cute.
I think they're old knitting advertisements.
Oh, really?
I did some searching online to find stuff to decorate my studio, and
that's
yarn
so
art. So.
Okay, so let's start talking about some of the knits, and then actually we have a quick question while I'm pulling up some of these samples. Emily, we have somebody asking, what yarn do you recommend for lightweight sweaters? And I think it depends.
Yeah.
I think fingering weight as a weight is really nice. It takes a while, but I think it's worth it to have a lightweight sweater.
And if you want warmth and like stroll is a good one.
Right, which is what your hat is in. It's a stroll tweed.
Yeah.
So it's got those little tweedy flecks for kind of a rustic look.
I know. I like the tweed. I didn't ask for tweed when I got mine for my sample. Mine's a little bit similar color.
I
but
love
like,
that.
Oh, that's a good idea. I should have asked for tweed. But
right. So yeah, that's a good point, is that sometimes when you submit a pattern, we will choose either a different yarn or a different. So Stroll as a yarn family has hand painted tonal. It has ombre effect. It is in a solid. It's in heathers. It's in a tweed.
Yeah.
So usually we'll try and stick within that family because it reacts the same way to stitches, but we will kind of shake it up depending upon either what we have in stock sometimes or what we think looks good with the other ones we've already picked.
Right.
I like the tweed too. I think it's a really nice effect.
I'm a fan of tweed.
Always. Okay, so let's go through. And yes, I did knit my sweater. I will post a link. I forgot. It was a last minute change. I realized I wanted to change what I was wearing. I didn't take a note of which one it is. I'll grab it from Ravelry and put it in for you. It's one of our patterns though, or it's on the site. It's cotton. So I will put that in later if for anyone asking. So the first sweater I have on my list is where am I here? The Abingdon Pullover, and this is in Paragon, which is the merino, baby, alpaca, and silk blend. So it is super luxurious. It has a really nice kind of a seed stitchy texture to it, and a rolled neck, which I'm seeing come back in knits pretty often lately. But it's got a nice, so it's ribbing and then the rolled effect. So it still will hold up and won't roll all the way down. And a common theme that we saw in this collection, so this is something we can talk about too, is that when we put a call for submission out, we're we don't generally tend to be super specific. We'll see something like oversized silhouette, but this time it was interesting to see so many patterns come in that were drop shoulder, which I think is, it shows that that's popular right now, and also it's just in the zeitgeist. So when I say drop shoulder, it means that the sleeve is joined not at the top of your shoulder like a set-in sleeve, but down here, which is exactly how this sweater is also constructed. And it does make it a little bit more beginner friendly, I think, in my experience.
It makes the body is just a rectangle, so it's neck.
Right.
Yeah.
So much easier. Yeah. And then you're not having to fiddle like with the seaming that I really have a hard time seaming in set-in sleeves still after years of doing it.
Yeah. Getting it to line up, right?
Totally. And then we also have, so in our yarn families, I think of Stroll as a fingering weight version of Swish, which is another yarn. It's our superwash merino wool. And they feel, while they're not the same exact fiber, they're kind of the same feeling and family. So they're both merino. Swish does not have the nylon in it like the sock yarn does, but it does react very similarly. So it's got that nice drape. It's very soft next to skin, and it does show stitches pretty well. So it's a nice pairing if you want to make something that kind of coordinated, doing Stroll, which is the merino nylon sock, like Emily's hat. And then Swish is just 100% superwash merino. And this is the moss stitch check jumper with that really nice oversized, and again, a drop shoulder. So you can see that it just sets, and it's nice because it holds the pattern pretty well. So you don't have to work in the decreasing and keep the pattern the same.
Yeah. Makes it easier.
Totally. Do you have any tips or tricks for choosing the right yarn for a project?
Well, if you're thinking of things for kids, you want it to be washable.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind. That's kind of broad, like any project.
I know.
So, yeah, it really depends.
Right.
About who it's for, what you want. Do you want it to be warm? Do you want it to be, you don't really care?
Right. There's also, so I think there's like the big categories of weight. So someone was asking about the fingering weight sweater or lightweight sweaters. I think it's choosing a lightweight yarn always helps with that. So fingering weight, sport weight maybe. And then there's the fiber type. So whether you're wanting a cotton, and we have a pretty good guide for choosing your fibers for like how they behave. So a cotton reacts differently than perhaps an alpaca, which is something you see just in like garments you buy at the store. So it's very similar fabric characteristics with knits and
potential allergies if you're making it for somebody else or yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And spend on it too. If you don't like working with fingering weight and you're making an entire sweater, you might drive yourself crazy. So
right. Oh, totally. You can also right. And the other way that you can get around it is knitting a larger yarn if you want on bigger needles. So it's a more open fabric. So it's not dense. So opening the fabric up and keeping your stitches kind of big and loose, that will also give you that same kind of drape. And so somebody had a question about, so I showed Paragon earlier. It is a, oh no, this is a question about bamboo. So we don't have a bamboo yarn, but somebody was asking if cotton or bamboo is not a good idea for sweaters because it stretches. I think both of those fibers grow. Yeah. Cotton, in my experience, if you machine wash it and machine dry it, it will kind of go back to how it was in my experience. I don't know if you've got experience with that, Emily, working with those fibers.
Bamboo very much.
Yeah.
So no, sorry.
It does have a lovely drape. I probably would do a blend. So that's when you're trying to get the best characteristics of two different fibers. So maybe a wool bamboo would not grow as much. So that wool will give it some of the elasticity to kind of help it shrink back. So if you do a low count of bamboo and a higher amount of wool in your yarn, you'll get a lot of the wool bouncy characteristics, but still some of that shine from bamboo. So that's an option possibly.
Okay.
Someone asked what our favorite colors for fall knitting are, and I think that this collection for me is exactly what I think of as fall. I don't know, Emily, if your color palette is the same.
Yeah, that yellow color is really
the kind of gold.
Right now. The kind of autumny gold.
And the kind of the rusty kind of orange. So like this sweater is very popular too as well.
Yeah.
And reds. I think of like fall tree leaf colors.
Yeah.
And then this is the pullover. It's also in swish. So again, it's that super nice drapey. It's got a lovely texture all over. It's a much more relaxed fit. So this is a raglan sleeve where you're doing the shaping just kind of down, and it's got a much more generous sleeve. So it's more oversized, and it's definitely a really nice layering piece from it.
Yeah.
And then we also have one more swish pullover. And again, it is a drop sleeve. So this is like a waffly waffle texture in swish again. So this is another nice kind of autumn color. I think it's verdant heather or forest heather, one of the two. And I think heathers are a really nice choice for knits. What do you think, Emily? Do you tend towards solids or heathers for your project?
I really like the heathers, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of definition, I think, or a little interest.
Right.
But I do gravitate towards the heathers.
I like yeah, it's like an easy way to add some dimension to your knits. And the way that you get, when we're talking about heathers, so a solid is just something that's dyed and it's kind of a solid color. There's not a lot of variation. And a heather has just slight variation. So with this green sweater, there's actually a little bit of red and orange and yellow blended in with the green to make it a little bit more dynamic. So it's different colored fibers blended together to make a solid appearing color at a distance. And the closer you get, the more interesting it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have a couple of accessories in swish. We've got Violet's beanie as well. So this is a fisherman rib. This is in swish again, and it's that really nice heather color. And I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up. One day when we're back in the office, I'll have a better camera and we can do this and show some really nice details. But for now, I really like this idea of the slouchy hats in this collection. We haven't gotten those in a while, and I like seeing them together. I think that was a really nice pairing. And picking a really nice squishy forgiving stitch for that is
right. You said that other one's fisherman's rib, right? So mine has fisherman's rib, but it's like just smaller sections and shifted, so that shows what it looks like in larger yarn and just
right
in one continuous pattern. It's kind of so the same stitch pattern, you can just tweak a few little things and
exactly
completely different.
And I like that they behave sort of the same way, so they both sort of relaxed in similar manner. And then the way they photograph too, they look like they're fitting similarly, but and I also like how flexible they are for fitting, for sizing, so you don't have to guess someone's exact head shape. I think I struggle with that sometimes.
That's really nice with slouches, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the easiest gift knit. Totally. And then questions, let's see, we say hi from Ohio, and I think I saw Denmark earlier, Columbia, Southern California, Maryland, Chicago, PA. I'm so glad that everyone's joining us. And someone says, I love the aids are back. The new drop shoulder oversized sweaters for leggings and skinny jeans. I really like how forgiving they are, especially when I'm working from home. I can have like some exercise pants underneath here, but then have a very nice oversized sweater that feels very comfortable.
Right. It's fancy.
It's so fancy. It's fancy from here up and very comfortable all the way up. Yeah. So if you've got any questions, I just want to remind everybody that we are giving away 4 copies of Pathways. We will be contacting you after we're done broadcasting. So feel free to drop a comment in, ask a question. We would love to hear it. And when you comment, you will be entered to win your very own copy of Pathways. And then, so let's go on to Twill. Have you done any projects in Twill, Emily?
I did. When it first came out, you guys sent me some, and it was really nice to work with. I made some mittens. I think the beehive mittens, they're free on
that's right. Yes, I love that pattern.
That's a cabled hat. Twisting Trails, I think it was called. So yeah, it works up really well. I like Twill.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It is where am I at? It is a merino yarn, and it's got a really high twist. and it's very dense. So this is one of the things where, like, when someone was asking about lightweight sweaters, I would not necessarily recommend Twill. I would recommend it for something that looks super effortless, has a nice drape, but it's very heavy. It's just so solid. I have a cabled sweater made in Twill, and I always picture putting on like chainmail with it, where it just feels comforting and heavy in like a good way.
Right.
It's like one of those weighted blankets for me, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the Anguilla sweater in with set in sleeves, and it's got this really nice kind of graphic diagonal stitch pattern, and that was an interesting twist where I think most of the patterns that we got were all over texture, and this one just really emphasized this swatch of texture across the front. Very solid sweater. I will say this is the heaviest sweater I think in the collection. It's lovely.
That'll keep you warm.
Yeah, it feels super luxurious. Nice. And then we've got the Textured Diamonds pullover in Twill, again with the drop shoulders, but it's an all over texture. And this feels very like vintagey classic to me, where it's like the all over diamonds in the cream. We picked that color as well. And it's had the drop shoulders. So it's pretty forgiving. Again, a weighty project for sure. And then the very last thing for Twill is these mittens, which you can see. This is the black cherry colorway, and this is a really beautiful heather. So you've got some purple and black and red in here. And I think Twill is my favorite example of heathered colors. Half of them are heathered and some of them are more solid. But just how dynamic they make the knit is really lovely. And soft textures. Yeah. And then we have a few. So someone asked, sport weight is DK, a UK knitter here. No, sport weight is different. It will go lace, fingering, sport, DK, then worsted. So DK is somewhere in between sport and worsted.
They're pretty close, but yeah, it's slightly thinner.
I tend to, like, if a pattern calls for DK weight, I will choose any of the three to see which one works. Some of our worsted yarns, like Wool of the Andes, is a little bit of a lighter worsted, so it's bordering on DK, but not quite, depending upon your gauge. So yeah, DK is different than sport. That's a really good question. And then I have just two last little projects here. So if you have questions, go ahead and chime in, and we will answer them as we are wrapping up. One of the last ones is Wool of the Andes, and this is again that really nice gold color like your hat. I think this is a really great color for right now. All over garter stitch, and it's actually got a saddle shoulder. So what that means is you've got this tab and then the arm. So it looks a little bit like a drop shoulder. Very similar construction in this case. And something I was thinking about when I was looking through this collection, I think it's great for beginners who are new to sweaters and want to try something that's interesting, so not a super boring knit. So you've got something to keep you occupied with the textures. They're forgiving fits. They're easy seams for all of them from what I've seen. And they explore. You've got a saddle shoulder, raglan, drop shoulder, and set in sleeve. I think these are almost all the sleeves I can think of for construction. So you can try your hand at all of those in really safe classic projects. Do you knit many sweaters, Emily, or what's your favorite sleeve construction style?
Well, I would like to have more sweaters, but I tend to do smaller projects just because, time wise, I can get more done.
Right.
I like the raglan or the raglan sleeve is probably my favorite. You can work it as you're going, and it's all done. It's this nice clean edge. Yeah, I like that one.
We have a quick question. Is the Twill yarn soft? What would you say, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's soft. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a merino wool, so it is the softest of wools. So if you're very sensitive to wool, I think all wool might be off the table. But if you find that there are some wools that they're soft, then absolutely. So it's definitely a sensory thing.
I don't remember.
No, it's not.
But it feels kind of like it.
It does.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that it's twisted so tightly that you're not getting any of these kind of stray hairs. So like Wool of the Andes is one made out of a a much more classic wool. It's Peruvian Highland wool, so it definitely feels like, you know, vintage sweater, the classic, more rugged. Twill has that much smoother surface without the kind of any sort of stray strands coming out, and so you don't have that opportunity for like any irritation.
Yeah,
I find it very soft.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then somebody asked, is the collection in a book? Yep, it's Pathways, and this is the printed book, which just launched yesterday. We also have it as an ebook and individual patterns, but we're going to be giving away 4 of these copies to people who have commented in the feed. We will do that after we're done. So look in your inbox for that. And yeah, you can get that today. And then the name of the sweater with the diagonal design in the front is the Anguilla Sweater, and that is on the site as well right now. Oh, question. Does Knit Picks use their own staff as test knitters or outside knitters? We definitely use outside knitters. Emily, do you use anybody to test knit your pieces, or do you knit them all yourself as well?
I knit them all myself.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to troubleshoot through things too.
Yeah. And
kind of like your first tech editor.
The way I thought it was going to work. So
right.
Yeah, I like to make sure.
Absolutely. And then I've got one last project. And I'll answer a few more questions, and then we will see you next time. But the last project is this Virago Vest, and it's really lovely. It's kind of an all-over pattern with a nice funnel neck and a high-low hem or a split hem. And this is also in Simply Wool, which is our Okie-Tex certified. So it's undyed, so they only come in sheepy colors. It's a little bit softer than Wool of the Andes, but not as soft as Swish, if you're familiar with those. So I would say it is on the end of slightly more rugged. Maybe if you're very sensitive to wool, I would probably not do this. But if you find that you have a high tolerance for wool like I do, then it's a beautiful fiber. And it's Okie-Tex certified, only in sheepy colors. It's very nice. I'm very excited about it. We just brought in a bunch of twist colors. So there's like, it's kind of like a false heather, more of a marl. And then somebody asked if we can felt with any of these yarns. Yes, you can felt with Simply Wool, and you can felt with Wool of the Andes. And these are all on our website, all the yarns we just talked about at knitpicks.com. And all the other ones, I believe, are superwash. You could felt with Twill, but we haven't tried it, and it's so dense, it might not felt very evenly. So I would pick something a little bit easier maybe. Oh, and the last thing is that this is the most size inclusive collection we've had. I saw a couple of these go up to, I think, a 67-inch finish size. I'm making that up. 68.5 on Abingdon. So I think this is the beginning of us really making an effort to be size inclusive and go to a more extended size range. So going forward, you will see a lot more of this. We've tried in the past, and we finally caught up to ourselves. And because we plan these things so far in advance, some of the decisions we made almost a year ago are finally happening. So yes, this is a very size inclusive collection. If you're curious about any of the sizing, you can go look at the individual pattern pages and see, it will list finished bust size on there. Yeah, so can you knit any of these sweaters in a lighter weight wool? What's your recommendation for swapping recommended yarns, Emily?
Well, it can get kind of complicated quickly if you're not familiar with what you're doing. So
yeah,
I think on the pattern too and how it's written. Some patterns you can just switch out, but some you can't as easily. So it's hard to tell.
I mean, it depends upon if you're asking to make it a lighter weight garment or if you just have a ton of fingering weight in your stash, perhaps. So if the latter is the case, you could hold 2 fingering weight yarns together and get, I think is it a DK or a worsted weight somewhere in there, depending upon your yarn that you start with and your gauge and how you're blocking it.
Yeah. So watching for sure.
Yes. Right. The recommendation is always, no matter what you're doing, is unless you want to do a lot of math, I would try to hit the gauge that the designer recommends always. And what you can do is you could hold, like Lee, who is, I think, moderating some comments for us today, frequently swaps in two fingering weight yarns held together for a heavier weight yarn, and you can get some cool color effects. So if that's what you're trying to do, then yes, but also I would just recommend finding, there are a lot of patterns on Ravelry right now or by other designers who are also featuring lovely textured stitches and simple silhouettes. It's very trendy right now. So I'm sure that you can find something that's, if not, I mean, I wouldn't say that any of them are the same, because we really work with designers to make something that's really interesting and unique, and especially in our yarns. But you can find, like, this trend is happening right now, and Ravelry is awash in lovely sweater patterns. So I would just find something that's already built for fingering weight yarns or lighter weight
looking
yarns.
For yeah, unless you want to write your pattern.
Right, which, I mean, this could be your gateway into designing.
Right.
We welcome you. Like, maybe this is your time. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, and then the very last thing is, yes, our patterns are tech edited. They go through, I think it's at least 2 rounds, but I would say that because Lee is also looking at them in the designers, it's almost 4 rounds of tech edit. It's a lot of tech editing. And we've really upped the amount of tech editing that we're doing in the last year or so, now that Lee has joined us and has been doing our books, that she's been a real advocate for doing more rounds of that. And also the test knitter while they're knitting is kind of tech editing as well. Right. So yes, we try to have 0 errors, and our error rate has improved immensely. And also
we moved to before test knitting recently too, which is great, I think.
Right.
Fix mistakes before the sample's made.
Exactly. Instead of having the knitter try and catch them. Yeah. So yes, they are well tech edited. And if you do find errata, we do label it on the website, but it's very little these days, almost none. So you rest assured when you buy one of our patterns, they are very tech edited. Yeah. Very. All right, Emily. Well, it was delightful talking to you. Thank you for joining me today. For anybody who who's commented, we will be picking 4 random winners in the comments feed for the printed version of the book, and we will be sending that out to you. We check your DMs or your messages after this, and we will be messaging people by, I think, 10 a.m. today. And if you are looking for past live episodes, they are on our Facebook, the videos, and we're also getting them slowly up onto YouTube and the website after they're live. So I think there's about a week delay, but you can see our past live streams both on our YouTube channel and on our website under the Learn section in the videos. So we look forward to seeing you next month during our next live. And in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram with our knit pics. You can join our Together We Knit group, which is here on Facebook. And it's full of lovely knitters doing very cool things. And it's a nice community that has really been built since we've all been working from home more and knitting from home more. So if you're looking for the knitting group, that might be it for you. So Together We Knit is there for you, and full of lovely, lovely knitters. Yeah. All right. Well, until next time, we will see you later. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.